Hi, I'm Valarie. Thank you for joining us today on the Valarie Hurst Show. People tell me, Valarie, I'm so excited and proud of you for doing this show. I tell them, one woman's story is another woman's healing. Let yours be heard. I've been coaching, counseling, and ministering to women for 25 years. The reason I do these shows is to help women who are struggling with their identities due to the pain from their past so they can move forward into the purpose of their destinies. No matter what happened to us as a child, it doesn't define who we are. Our value doesn't decrease based on our inability to see our worth. My guest today, Angela Benson Williams, was being groomed a heptathlete at a Division I school during her freshman year. When she sustained an injury to her clavicle, it devastated her and just ended her career. One day she found herself on her bathroom floor crying with her suicide plan in place. Angela's greatest struggles became her reason for living. Angela, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you, Valarie. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Great to have you here. So you are the sixth child out of 14 children. What was that like for you growing up? I'm sure that was a busy life for all of you.
Most definitely. As a middle child, I got lost in the shuffle. My parents always had their hands full, going to basketball games and sporting events of different sorts. So I got lost, if you will.
Okay. So tell me, sports became your identity. That pretty much was what kind of shaped and formed you as you were growing up. Tell me a little bit about that. What was that like for you?
I grew up in a household where my dad played a professional sport. He was in the NFL for several years before graduating from Baylor University and becoming a physician. And my dad said that your body can only take you so far, your mind has to take you the rest of the way, which is why he encouraged us to all go to Baylor University. But yet and still, the athleticism and everything that we learned there catapulted us into where we are today. And so sport became intertwined and interwoven into the fabric of our livelihood very early on.
Wow. Tell me about that moment when you're there on your bathroom floor.
Wow.
Crying, and you've written out your suicide plan.
Right.
And what happened next?
So I'm there, and tears are streaming down my face. It was one of those watershed moments, pun intended, to where I was just lost, and just literally trying to reach for anything I could, any hope that I possibly could. And so in the midst of my tears, in the midst of my anguish, I remember crying out, God, show me a light. And upon doing that, I just hung my head again, just in absolute despair. And my sister comes home early from work that day and flips on the bathroom light. She walked with me through my darkest moment. And our relationship has never been the same since.
So she was your saving grace.
Most definitely.
What does she say to you in that moment?
Oh, sweet Lord, what are you doing? And then upon just being able to share my heart and be open and vulnerable with her, she was able to be there with me, to sympathize and empathize, and to let me know that I was more than just an athlete. And I needed those comforting words, and I needed her shoulder, and I needed her to be there for me.
So you were done with college. What was your next thing in life? What happened next for you?
After college, I recall upon graduation, maybe a few months early, a broken engagement. And so I had worked 3 jobs while going through school. And I remember one day specifically, just feeling overwhelmed with despair yet again. And I had just left my 3rd job. I was coaching, and I remember violently throwing my gear shift into reverse and heading home. I don't remember the drive home at all. I just remember busting through my home, and I ran to my bathroom. And with both hands plastered to the wall, I'm heaving, oh my God, what is this inside of me?
Wow.
And medically, it was an anxiety attack.
Oh, okay.
But what it was for me right there in that moment was just an emotional, cancerous, just stirring within my stomach. And so I ran to my room, grabbed a dry erase marker, just started writing all over my mirror. And I detailed some of the abuse that I had sustained in life. I was raped while I was in college. That was my first sexual experience, as well as just feeling lost, forgotten, abandoned, and just this litany of other items that had happened to me in my life. And I just remember writing ferociously. And then I fell back to the wall. I dropped the marker, and I look at the mirror. Not a single spot was uncovered.
Wow.
And I said, there it is. That's what's eating at me. That's the abuse. That's the neglect. That's the cancerous things in my life that have me bound, that have me tormented. And with a sigh of relief, I said, okay.
Okay. So you described it to me previously as it was like an emotional vomit for you. So all of these words you were writing on the mirror was everything pinned up in you that you were feeling. So were you suppressing this? Was it just stuff you couldn't talk to other people about?
So some of the things I had dealt with, but not everything. And so for me to be able to get everything out was one of those moments of clarity, to put things in order. And so for me, in being able to emotionally vomit everything that was inside of me, it was a means of being able to say that, yes, I was able to deal with this, that, and the other, but this is the big picture of what's going on. This is what's eating at me at night. This is what's keeping me up.
Here you were suppressing all of these injustices.
Right.
And did you feel like you didn't have anyone to talk to about those things that happened to you? And that's why you suppress them?
Well, a lot of those things I had dealt with individually. So the rape, I had told a friend, and I didn't even call it a rape initially. I detailed to him what my first sexual experience was. And 3 years after the incident, he said, "Angela, you were raped." And I just remember that word sat on my chest like an elephant.
Wow.
And I was able to pick up the broken pieces, if you will, concerning that. But the theme throughout my life, the theme throughout my narrative was being lost, abandoned, and rejected. And so as I was able to write that on the mirror, it surfaced a number of times in several different situations within my life. And so it wasn't that I hadn't dealt with it individually, but in totality, I was able to see, this is what I've been through. This is what my heart has endured.
Right.
And I was able to see it clearly for the very first time in my entire life.
Wow, powerful. So you told me that in 2009 you got married and you have 3 amazing boys.
They are.
So this was kind of like your next phase in life after
Yes.
college, and
Yes.
so tell me about that.
My boys are the joy of my life. Again, got married in 2009, and he was the love of my life. And so we were married in April. Our firstborn got here in August. And he was married previously and had a daughter from his first marriage. And so I'm nursing our oldest son, and we get into an argument. In that argument were details concerning his ex-wife and daughter. And I said something that he didn't approve of, so he hit me. It wasn't the hit that startled me. It was the blood-curdling scream from my newborn.
Oh, wow.
Because as I was nursing him and I was hit, my son became unlatched.
Right.
And so in that moment, I just knew I had to protect my child.
Right.
It wasn't about protecting me, but I knew I had to protect my son.
So at what point in your marriage did you start noticing some abuse?
So I left that day, and that was the first and last time that he had came after me to say, "I'm sorry, come back home." In the years to follow, I would leave after an argument, taking our child or children with us, and the cycle started of the abuse, me literally caving in, me freezing and appeasing leaving, him not pursuing us, and then I come back home. So that vicious cycle was already in play.
So common when you're in an abusive marriage,
Right.
domestic abuse, that same cycle repeats, and
Yes.
that fear, afraid to leave
Right.
for your own safety and the safety of your children.
Right.
So what was the 2 milestones that made you realize, I can't take this anymore?
6 years into our marriage, and throughout, just to be fair, just to be honest, we had gone to counseling, and so I was one of those crazy ladies who thought that I should stay next to my husband during this difficulty, and I call it pray and stay. So I prayed and stayed. We went to counseling individually. We went together as a couple. And because he was willing to attend, I was willing to work things out repetitively. But while in school, while receiving my master's degree, one of my professors took me through something practical. If you don't mind, I'd love to do it with you.
Sure.
So your hand is right here. You're me.
Okay.
And I'm just going to do like this. I'm
Okay.
hitting you.
Okay.
And you're praying for me. Please let Angela stop hitting me. Please let Angela stop hitting me. But I'm still hitting you, and it's getting harder and it's getting worse.
Oh, wow.
And you can still pray as a wife, as a woman, as a human being, but you can also remove your hand and keep doing it. And so at that realization of living out my faith practically, I knew that I could remove myself from my marriage, remove myself from that toxic situation, remove myself from the abuse, and still be the praying and caring wife that I was deep inside. Yeah. In November of 2014, I got tired of praying. I really did, and I was fed up. 8 months pregnant with our 3rd child, an altercation started again, and I fought back for the very first time.
Wow.
And at the end of it, I felt horrible. I grabbed my children and left, and we went to Waco. Upon arriving there, I call a friend, and I'm letting her know what's going on, because she had been there with me throughout the course of the marriage as I'm telling her what's going on.
I see.
And she said, Angela, I'm proud of you for fighting back. And there was nothing inside of me that was proud, that admired me or anything else. And I just fell deeper into despair and deeper into self-hate and disgust. So there was nothing honorable about what I had done because I had been taken out of character. Again, November 2014, 8 months pregnant, was the first time I had fought back. In August of 2015, another altercation had ensued, and I fought back again, this time with our 8-month-old in hand. And
it's okay.
That's not me.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm not an angry person.
I see that.
I'm not a vicious person. And I hurt. I was hurting because I had hurt him. And I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand for the life of me how I felt so much pain, so much guilt, so much shame in what I had done once. Yet I had sustained this the entire time of our marriage. And so with that, I left.
Yeah.
And this time for good. A dear friend of mine helped me to find an apartment and just get the practical matters in place. And so for the last 1.5 years, I have been a single mom of 3 boys, and just making sure that they are growing up in a healthy environment where love is not only spoken about, but it's practiced. And they're able to experience the love of a mother, unconditional. And I'm able to be me and love them freely and be the jovial spirit that I am.
Yeah.
So it's been a redemptive journey in the last 1.5 years.
Oh, I see that about you. You know, you're a beautiful person, inside and out. And I'm sure, you know, taking them out of that atmosphere into the atmosphere you now have them in is, you know, a lot healthier.
Most definitely.
You know, I know, like you were saying, sometimes we're afraid to leave.
Right.
You know, we want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing by our faith. But sometimes that's not always the best thing, you know,
Right.
to stay in something that's abusive like that. So I agree. So here you are, a single mom now, and juggling life and your boys, and what is that like for you now?
The day-to-day is chaotic.
Yeah.
But I did have a great teacher in my mom, who skillfully mastered a household of 14. And if she can do that, I know that God has granted me the grace to take care of my household of 3.
Yes.
My oldest is an absolutely amazing boy, and he's very helpful. He's really stepped up in being the man of the house, so to speak, and opening my door for me and just really taking care of Mom. The middle child, I sympathize with him. The middle child has also just emulated his older brother, but has also taken on taking care of the younger brother. And then my dear youngest, oh sweet Jesus, I don't know what to do with the 2-year-old. So if you want one, I'll lend him to you.
I'll be glad to.
He's an amazingly spirited young boy, and his personality is already shining through. They are the reason that I do Inner Reflections. I am a full-time employee. I'm also the founder and president of Inner Reflection Global.
Yes, tell us about that. I was going to ask you. So what are you doing now as a single mom in your career now?
So Inner Reflection has prepared me for life. Life has prepared me for Inner Reflection.
So true.
And so I'm able to walk with people through their darkest moments and be with them. They are equipped with a mirror and a dry erase marker, and they literally go through the same exercise that I went through as I guide them through questions, and their narrative just naturally flows out. A lot of it is woundedness, but there are also some triumphant stories within their narrative. And we're also to able identify a theme. So for me, being lost, forgotten, and abandoned was always a part of that.
Okay.
Knowing that, I don't co-sign for that anymore. If someone brings that to my door, I reject it.
Good for you.
And so with others, I'm empowering them to do the same. What's the theme throughout your life, and how has it negatively affected you and the relationships around you? So they're able to see life from a new perspective. They're able to love themselves, but most importantly, they're able to experience freedom.
Powerful.
No more bondage, no more shame, no more guilt. And they're able to put into proper perspective the fragile moments of life and be able to create a narrative that is uplifting, that is encouraging, and that empowers others.
Love it, love it. So do a little demonstration of what an inner reflection looks like.
There we go. First off, what do you believe your parents said when they found out that they were pregnant with you?
Okay.
Can you think of something just offhand?
Let's see. I believe, from what I understood, I think I was more desired, the pregnancy and having another child by my mom than my dad. He just wanted one child.
Right.
So I do know that.
So that plays into your narrative. Sometimes we feel rejection. Sometimes we feel like there's this chasm between us and our parents. There's this gap, there's this unspoken truth, but yet we feel it.
Yeah.
And so for you, as we're doing the mirror activity, you would write down some of these feelings and emotions, and we would explore them throughout your narrative, because it played in to some of the intimate things and intimate relationships of your life. And so for wives especially, wow, why am I having so much discord with my husband?
Yes.
Oh, he's on the opposite end of something that my parents did, my father did, my mother did.
So true.
but it also plays into how we parent our children. And so for me, because I have that woundedness and not being as close as I wanted to my dad, I make sure that my boys have a relationship with their father. And I have to put self aside to do that. Within the last 5 weeks, I've been sending my husband, my ex-husband, celebratory emails. I celebrate you as father. And I thank him for everything that he has done for our boys.
Now that's powerful.
And
that's very rare.
Yes.
I'm sure that's healing for you too.
Extremely,
Yeah.
extremely.
And that helps him to move forward.
Right. Well, and he's never mentioned them. In all the ones that I've sent, he's never mentioned a single one.
Yeah.
But that's okay, and that's not rejection.
Right.
And that's
right.
not abandonment. That's me doing what I believe I'm called to do for the welfare of my boys by encouraging him as father.
That's beautiful. Love it. And I'm sure he is receiving something out of that. He has to.
I hope
He
so.
has to. Well, wonderful. Well, so where are you now with things and just who Angela Benson Williams is now?
So with full-time ministry in Inner Reflection Global, I keep busy because it's they're individuals that I get to work with, but also couples. So husband and wives, mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, and crisscross, but also doing workshops. And so that keeps me busy, that keeps me engaged. But I've been blessed, I've been very fortunate to meet this young lady, beautiful woman. I don't know if you know her, Valarie Hurst. And she has
so
invested in me tremendously. Valarie, thank you for everything that
You're
you've
so
done.
welcome. I'm honored.
With the photo shoot, it was absolutely amazing because I felt like woman again, and I felt empowered and I felt emboldened to pursue new things in life. And so my boys and I are getting into the groove of a routine as mom is exploring what God has called her to do outside of the home, but also in.
What a beautiful story. Truly a redeeming story.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it. So how can people connect with you, and where can they find you, and if they would like to do an inner reflection with you?
So Inner Reflection Global, I come to you. I want you to be in a very safe, comfortable place so that you and I can go over your narrative. Again, you will be equipped with a mirror and a dry erase marker. Again, it'll be individuals, couples, or even workshops. I love going to churches and doing inner reflections with girls and boys of all ages. I can be contacted. I can be reached at angela@innerreflectionglobal.com, or you can give me a phone call, 254-715-4193. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to walk with you through your deepest, darkest moments with no judgment, no shame, no guilt. Hand in hand, we will conquer.
Powerful. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for being on the show today. And as many of you know, one of my long-term projects is to establish a building fund for a facility which will provide housing and healing for young women who have been sexually exploited. And so if you'd like to find out more information about this, on this exciting project, a very much needed project, you can go to ibeyondtheveil.org, and with your participation, we can make it happen. Thanks, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.